Well, President Book, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
It's grateful to be here. Thanks for asking. And luckily, a beautiful, beautiful week here at Elon.
Absolutely. So today is just, if you can believe it, 365 days on the dot, a full year since we got your initial email informing students, faculty, staff, and really the entire community that we were going to be going online for at least those 2 weeks after spring break. And of course, we know how that turned out. So I'm just today wanting to hear some of your reflection of just kind of how we've been able or how we've had to adapt from that initial email to where we are today.
I have to say I've been having a little bit of deja vu because of the weather changing in the spring. And I'm remembering those days when we were watching the rest of the country, especially the state of Washington and Washington State University, where the virus first entered the US, and seeing what was happening there, and then just travel being suspended and interrupted. And we also in January kind of had this premonition in our senior team meeting where we were being briefed on a Elon class that was traveling through China in January, and was like, is this going to be a thing? Do we think this coronavirus is going to be a thing? I will say 1 year later that, and it's difficult, the passage of time. Absolutely, when I sent that original email, I did not imagine the protracted nature of this disease, what would unfold for the American people in the world. And in reflection, I have so much gratitude for where we are today, a year later, with the vaccine being distributed now across faculty, staff, and students, and across our world, feeling much a sense of gratitude to be on the downward slope of the pandemic.
Sure. So, and I definitely want to get to some of the things that you just mentioned there in a minute. I just first want to kind of circle back and say, what are some of the biggest struggles that you think just we as a community, as an institution, in terms of our learning processes and our social life that we faced as a whole?
Well, it's really the structural challenge. As one of the other college presidents told me early, when there was no medical treatment for this, that this would be a completely behaviorally managed disease. And because of that, every behavior we've had since the advent of the pandemic has been to prevent the spread of a disease. And that meant in our classrooms, in our families, with our friends. And so putting all of these structures in place have been the most challenging, and staying ahead of the disease. So, anytime you've got a congregate living situation on a residential campus, one case can quickly, we know, spiral into dozens of cases. And so when I think of the major challenges we faced, it was how to deliver our teaching and learning model in a healthy structure, and then how to stay one step ahead of the disease through testing and identifying the risk behavior and trying to get our arms around it quickly before it would swell.
So what are some of the things, though, that you feel like we've sort of been able to essentially take advantage of because of, this situation? Do you think that there's anything that, we've transitioned to that may stay with us long term, even after the pandemic is, and hopefully soon, finally put in the history books?
Baylor, I have this list I keep on my desk. Every time something happens that's a good outcome of the pandemic, I write it down, because I'm trying to make sure I don't forget those learning and new tools. I mean, even just what we're doing right now, right, is that I didn't have this kind of equipment. I certainly didn't have the knowledge of how to use it. And all of those things are certainly assets that we want to continue to use. And for Elon, because of our global emphasis and it really just the ability to connect via video instantaneously, to bring alumni into our classes so that we can have students engaged in their guidance. We're able to interact all across the world with employers, with researchers. I mean, so many good things and even across the street where you are, right? So it's not even that we're connecting necessarily intercontinental, it's even across the street that I can see Baylor right now.
All right. And how do you see Elon really moving forward? As you said, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, so many students and faculty and staff and community members are finally getting vaccinated. I'm wondering, A, if you've been vaccinated yourself, but also then, how you really see Elon moving forward, not only for the fall, but this semester too.
I do think that I did get my first dose last Friday at Walgreens. And my second one is April 2nd, and I'm looking forward. I think the CDC's guidance this week shows us what a world might look like when we have herd immunity through vaccination, by saying, hey, if you're vaccinated and it's post 2 weeks, those vaccines, you can get together with other vaccinated people and in a healthy, safe way. So I look forward to that, to the herd immunity from the vaccine that will allow us to be in communion, in learning together again. We all have been grateful that we've been able to do it with a mask and 6 feet apart, because even that was better than being isolated. But we'll all enjoy when we're able to to not have that 6 feet of space. I do think masks are here to stay. I think we've learned we can protect ourselves from not just COVID-19, but also from the flu, from the colds. So I think we're going to see generally more acceptance of people wearing masks. I've learned a lot about washing my hands and sanitizing spaces, and have enjoyed a year of good health. Like I've not had a single sickness this year, and it's because I was practicing all of these behaviors. And neither have my kids, so it's a family practice too. So that's one of the learnings that we're going to take with us. The technology too, one of the advantages is now all of our classrooms and our offices are equipped with video software and lighting and other tools that help good video messaging. I don't see that going away for Elon in the future, and that we'll start to integrate more of these tools in our teaching and learning.
Absolutely. So in the weeks, the days and weeks to come, we've gotten already some new guidance from the CDC in terms of guidelines changing of, even in terms of mask wearing when it comes to those who've received the vaccine. And so is Elon looking at those? Can we expect potential changes to our how we're operating right now in terms of these new COVID elements that have become a part of our daily life? Do we see any of those changes for this semester? And then I want to get into a little bit about what you think the fall looks like too.
Absolutely, and we're monitoring that every day. Elon, you're probably aware, got approved to be a vaccine site. So every time there's a new guidance from the governor, from the CDC, we work to turn those dials here on campus. Just for example, with the football stadium, they went from 7% to 30% in recent weeks. So we're able to have a little more community at the football game this weekend. So every time that the CDC issues a new fact-based guidance based on what they're seeing, we absolutely want to turn that dial here at Elon as well.
Okay, and then my some of my wrapping up questions, basically, of if there's one thing that during this last year that you could do over, is there anything that comes to your mind?
Well, I will say I take a growth mindset. And so every day there's something that happens that I think, oh, I've learned from this, I'm going to do it better. So I can't pinpoint one thing. I've been absolutely, I want you to know, really proud of the way our community responded. We're only 16% of universities were able to have a fall semester. At Elon, we didn't lay off any of our community, any of our faculty or staff, and we did not have a reduction in benefits. We're only one of a handful of universities that have been able to, and we did that through efficient and strategic budget cuts. We froze positions, we renegotiated contracts. We did a lot of good work to keep our workforce and community whole during this time. So, there's always things where we could do better, but I've been really proud of the commitment to each other that we've had in this response. And I look forward to the fall. I'm imagining we're all back in the fall that our classes have resumed 100% residential, that the desks are back together. But I do think we'll see people wearing masks. We'll probably have plexiglass in some key locations. We may spread out a little more. But then, when I look at pictures from pre-COVID, we're all close down. I'm like, whoa, we probably should have spread out a little more. So I think we've learned a lot just generally how to protect ourselves from disease.
Sure, I agree with that. There's sometimes I watch TV shows and I think, well, what are they all doing together? And, so
Too
I
big
think
of a
we all have those
crowd.
moments. Yeah, exactly. We all have those moments. So, and then I just want to clarify one thing. I know you said that you got your first dose of vaccine. I'm just curious. I did as well. I'm just curious. What did you get? Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson and Johnson?
I went to Walgreens and it was the Pfizer. And
Okay.
my arm was a little sore, but I think it's because she poked me right in the arm. She did a great job. No, so I did. I want to encourage everyone. I think, one of our biology professors has done a really great webinar. It's online on our webpage, just explaining the science behind this vaccine. And it's absolutely safe, and I encourage everyone to take the vaccine.
All right. And I know the university is not requiring, obviously, at least as of now, that the vaccine, that everyone receives one. But would you say that some of where we're able to go, not only for this semester in terms of thoughts about graduation, all that, but also in the fall, really depends on how many students receive that?
Well, I think, I don't know. The vaccine I'm grateful to have it. We should all take it. But we also learned this fall that there was no classroom transmission of the disease. We learned that there was no staff to students. So it's not dependent on the vaccine. We've learned that the structures we have in place also work to keep us healthy when we are together. But we should all take the vaccine for our own personal health, and because we want as much, the world has changed. But we do, there's so much value in our relationships. We do, and so much is the same, right? It has changed, but so much is the same. I'll quickly say, I had this experience with a student when sometimes I like to do what they call management by walking around. And I just walk around campus for a couple of hours, and I usually bring good things like ice cream and popcorn. And I had a couple of students helping me, and we did a roundabout, and we ran into several hundred students. It's a couple of hours, and we stop and say hello and check in. And then we had this interaction with a group of students on the sidewalk that were leaving a German for business class. And it was spontaneous, and we were talking German and having fun, and it felt really good. And as we turned away, there were tears in this student's eyes. And she said, "Dr. Book, that's the most people I've interacted with in more than a year in that walkabout." And she wasn't crying from sadness. It was cathartic. It was realizing how good it feels to be with each other.
Well, that's a beautiful note to end on. Thanks so much for taking the time. I know you got a really busy day today.